Hi, I'm Amy Romeo from Amy Romeo Crafts, and in this video I'll be showing you how to make these Scandinavian inspired ornaments using faux leather, heat transfer vinyl, and a Cricut. If you're ready to learn how to make this project, let's go ahead and get started. The SVG file for this project is available in my shop. It's part of my holiday faux leather crafting event where I'm sharing a brand new holiday SVG and video tutorial every day for 20 days. I'll leave a link on the screen for you so you can get the SVG, or you can visit amyromeo.com/holiday to see all of the event's designs. Let's go over the tools and materials we'll be using to make this project. I'll be using the Cricut Maker today, but you could use any of the current Cricut machines because we'll be cutting the faux leather for this project with the standard fine point blade that's included on the Explorer Air 2, the Explorer 3, both of the Cricut Joys, and the Maker 3. So this project is simple. It has two layers. There's a faux leather base for the bottom shape of the ornament, and then there's a heat transfer vinyl layer on top. And if you don't want to use faux leather for the base, you could use cardstock and then press heat transfer vinyl on top, or even permanent vinyl. So the faux leather that I'll be using, this is just white and it comes on a roll. This is from Amazon, and I'll leave links to all of my materials for you. And then I have some glitter heat transfer vinyl, but you could use regular solid no glitter heat transfer vinyl as well. This comes on rolls, but it also is available in sheets, and I'll leave links to all of that for you. You could do this project in reverse, where the bottom layer is a color of faux leather, and then you're cutting the detail layer in white. That would be really pretty too. So to cut the faux leather, I'll be using my purple strong grip cutting mat, and to cut the heat transfer vinyl, I'll be using the green standard grip cutting mat. If you're using either of the Cricut Joy machines, you can cut both the faux leather and the heat transfer vinyl using the green Joy size mats. To press the heat transfer vinyl onto the faux leather, I'll be using the Easy Press Mini set to the low setting, which is just that one bottom line. But you could also use a regular Easy Press for this project. If you use a regular Easy Press, I recommend setting the temperature to about 265 degrees and then increasing as needed. Some other materials we'll be using, I'll need a pin pen or a weeding tool of some kind. So I have a hook weeding tool, and then I also love my pin pen for detailed cuts. Some craft scissors, regular craft scissors, and I also like some detail scissors like these curved scissors. These are great for trimming up any little fuzzies that might be on the edge of the faux leather after you cut. And also blue painter's tape. This is going to help us tape the faux leather down to the mat and get a really good cut. Finally, we'll use some glue to glue the ornament together. I'll be using some Fabri-Tac, but you could use any good fabric glue or craft glue. And then we need some ribbon to make a little hanger for our ornament. So let's hop over into Design Space. I'll show you how to cut out the layers for this project, and then I'll show you how to create your ornaments. So starting with a blank canvas in Cricut Design Space, you'll click on Upload, and then Upload Image, and you'll browse to where the unzipped SVG file is for this project. Click on it to select it, and then click Open, and you'll see a preview of the three ornament shapes here. Click on Upload, and then select it from your recent uploads row and click Add to Canvas. So we can see all three of our ornaments are on our canvas. They all have that white faux leather base, and you can cut all of them at the same time, which is what I'm going to show you how to do now. But if you only wanted to cut one of them, first you'll need to ungroup them so that you can individually delete whatever layers you don't want to use off of your canvas. But as I mentioned, I'm going to cut all three of them at once. The reason I'm going to do that is because all three of them are going to cut from the same material. The base layer will cut on a faux leather mat, and then all of these layers, the colored layers, even though they're different colors, I'm cutting them from the same material, so I can place those on the same mat as well. And this will become a easy 2-mat project. So let me show you how I do that. So when you have things that are the same color, Cricut puts them on the same cutting mat. Since I'm cutting all the vinyl layers from that glitter heat transfer vinyl, as long as I make the layers the same color, Design Space will put them on the same mat for me. So there's two ways to do that. You can click on one of the colored layers, and then up here in the color box, you can choose a color that is another one of the glitter vinyl colors on the mat. So here I just changed that green layer to the red, and I'm also changing the blue layer to the red. When you click here on this little top box, it will show you the colors in use on your mat. So if you choose another color that's in use on your mat, Cricut's going to put those shapes together for you. Another way to do it, which is the way I usually do it, is the color sync feature. So if you click up here on color sync, you can see that Design Space has broken this project down into 4 mats currently, one for the faux leather and then one for each of the heat transfer vinyl colors. So if I just take my colored layers and drag them down onto a different color, that's going to change all the colors as well. And now all of those red layers will cut on the same mat. That doesn't mean that you need to cut them from red glitter heat transfer vinyl. It just means they will be placed on the same mat. So we don't need to make any other adjustments here. I'm going to click the Make It button. We're cutting our material on a mat. And now the Design Space has made this a simple 2-layer project for us. So the first thing we want to do is toggle the mirror button on for both mats. That's because heat transfer vinyl and faux leather cut in reverse. If you were using permanent vinyl for this mat, then you would not mirror that layer. Okay, so here's our faux leather mat, and Design Space has put all of our little shapes together for us. The Design Space has put all of our faux leather shapes onto our mat, and you might think that the way to attack this project is to put a large piece of faux leather down on the mat and then cut all of these shapes at once. And while that may work, what I want to do is cut them from 3 smaller groupings, and I'm going to use 3 smaller pieces of faux leather. That's because I find when I put a smaller piece of faux leather down on the mat and then I tape all around with blue painter's tape, I get a much better cut because it's very well adhered and stuck to the purple mat and it won't move. So what I'm going to do is actually move my little shapes around on my mat so I can cut them in 3 separate groupings. Okay, so now I have my little layers grouped, and for the circles, I'll cut a piece of faux leather about 4 inches wide and almost 8 inches tall. For this one, it'll be a shape about this size. I'll measure that out, and the same here. Okay, so this mat is ready to go. Let's click over on our vinyl layer. And what I want to do, since I will be cutting these vinyl shapes from 3 different colors of glitter heat transfer vinyl, I do want to separate them from each other slightly so that I have room to put down 3 different pieces of glitter. So I'll put my green glitter here, my blue glitter here, and my red glitter here on my mat. Okay, let's click back on the faux leather mat. I always like to cut that one first. I'll click continue. And we'll be cutting faux leather using that faux leather paper thin setting. If you don't have it bookmarked as a favorite like I do, you can click on Browse All Materials and search for it. If you are using the Explorer Air 2, you'll need to turn your dial to custom before you'll find this setting. So faux leather paper thin, and then we want to change the pressure to more. That's really important when cutting faux leather. And here's a reminder that we're just using that regular fine point blade that is already in our machine. When I cut this glitter heat transfer vinyl layer, I will cut it using the glitter vinyl setting. And because I'm using Caesar glitter heat transfer vinyl, it's a little thicker, so I will cut it twice. So I will repeat the cut 1 time after I cut with glitter vinyl default pressure. And for this one, we will check the cut before we unload the mat in case we need to repeat it. So let's hop back over to my overhead camera and we'll start to cut out our mats, and then we'll put together the ornaments. So I've already trimmed my faux leather in those 3 sort of large rectangles that I showed you in the mat preview screen. And what I'm going to do is place them pretty side down on my purple strong grip cutting mat, and then put blue painter's tape all around. So I've already done that for these 2, and this blue painter's tape is just tape pieces that I've used before and I've saved when I've removed them from my mat, and then I can recycle them and use them again. I find that you can use blue painter's tape 4 or 5 times really before it just loses its sticky. So I'm just going to tape these down on all sides. Again, this is maybe a little bit overly cautious. You could probably put one piece of faux leather down and get good cuts, but faux leather, as we know, is not an inexpensive material, so I don't like to waste it by taking my chances. I know that separating out the pieces like this is really going to help me get better cuts. So we have the faux leather paper thin setting with more pressure ready to go. We'll just load the mat into the Cricut and begin the cut. So the cut has run one time. The faux leather paper thin setting is actually an automatic double cut, so really the cut has run twice, but we want to check and see how the cut went through, because we can always repeat the cut if necessary as long as we haven't unloaded the mat. So this one here, we can see this cut went through very well where it's already lifting off the mat, and that's a good point because if I had one giant piece of faux leather on here, this would cause this part to lift and then this cut could be compromised. Okay, so this looks great and I'm going to remove some of these shapes, but I wanted to mention if when you put your sharp weeding tool under here, if the edges of the faux leather are not coming up, if they're still stuck down to the border of the faux leather, then you can repeat the cut. And you can do that by pressing the cut button again on the Maker or the Explorer machines. If you're using the Cricut Joy, the option to rerun the cut will be on your screen in Design Space. Okay, so let's go ahead and unload the mat because these cuts look good. We'll just remove all of our shapes. So now I'm going to return to Design Space and I'm going to cut out that glitter vinyl mat. And remember, I need to cut out 3 different colors in little sizes that will fit to cover the area that needs to cut. So I'll just take a moment, cut out all of my little vinyl layers. I'll weed away the excess, and then in the next step, I'll show you how to press the vinyl onto the faux leather. So before I start cutting, I just wanted to show you what the mat looks like now that I'm putting the different colors of the glitter heat transfer vinyl all on the same mat. So I'm just cutting a shape that's larger than the shape that's going to cut, and I can see that in my mat preview screen. And I'm just placing them all down in their little spots. Press this down well with your hands. Again, this Caesar glitter is very thick, so I'm going to cut with the glitter vinyl setting with default pressure, and I will repeat that cut one time by pressing the cut button again. The material that you're using, you may not need to repeat the cut. So just use the vinyl cut setting for the manufacturer's recommendations for your particular vinyl. So my glitter vinyl mat has cut twice. I'm just going to unload it and we can see our little shapes. So I'll need to weed out the vinyl, weed away the excess vinyl. While this was cutting, I used my little curved scissors and I just trimmed up the edges of the faux leather. As I mentioned earlier, sometimes you get little tiny fuzzies, so I'd clean those up so the edges are nice and neat. Now what I'm going to do is just weed away the excess vinyl, and then we'll press our ornaments. So all of our vinyl layers are ready to go. I have my heat pressing pad here to protect my surface, and then also I'm using a little cover sheet. This is a Teflon sheet, one of those large t-shirt size ones that I just trimmed smaller for making small projects. You could also use butcher paper or parchment paper. So my Easy Press Mini is set on that low setting. If you're using a regular Easy Press, I would start at 265 degrees. And all we're going to do is layer our vinyl layer on top of the faux leather layer. And what I'm using is the little cutout hole at the top and lining that up to help me line up where this layer goes on the faux leather base. If the faux leather circle, it was just way too curled, you can always press it for just a few seconds with some heat. I'll probably show you that on the tree. So we'll just cover this and then we're going to press all over for about 10 seconds. And then we're just going to peel back that clear carrier sheet. If when you're peeling the vinyl lifts up, just place it right back down and press for a few more seconds. But that looks pretty good. And you will see sometimes you get some little glitter speckles on the faux leather. Just wait until the faux leather cools and then you can usually just flick those off either with your weeding tool or with your fingernail. So I'm going to put this underneath my heat pressing pad for now because it's warm and I want it to cool in a nice flat position. Now let's do the heart. So these are a little curled, so all I want to do is cover it and just press for a few seconds just to flatten that back out. There we go. And again, I can use that little cutout hole for the hanger. I can use that to help me place this vinyl layer correctly on the faux leather base. So remember to peel this slowly so that if you need to, you can just place the clear carrier sheet right back down. But this looks good. There we go. Again, we'll put this under here so it can cool flat. And now we'll do our tree. Okay, so that looks great. So we're going to let this one cool. And then we're going to glue the back of both of these ornaments on now. And I think what I'll do is quickly press these just to get them a little bit flatter. There we go. So as I mentioned, the glue that I'm using is Fabri-Tac. That's because the back of faux leather really is fabric. So you could use any good fabric glue. You could also use Bearly Art glue. That's another good one. But I really like the Fabri-Tac. It dries clear and it also makes the ornament nice and stiff when the two layers are glued together. So first I'm going to show you how to glue them, and then I'm going to show you a trick that I use to help get our ornaments nice and flat with a seamless edge. Let's do the circle one first. So all we're going to do is put the glue on the back of one side. I usually do the back so that I can just lift up the front and place it on top. And what you want to do is get the glue all over the back. Try to avoid any lumps. And you want to get close to the edge, but not all the way to the edge, because we are going to be using a trick to help us get flat edges, and that's going to kind of push some glue to the edge, which is exactly what we want. So now I just take the top, layer it on top, line up that little hanger hole, and you want to spend just a minute getting the edges lined up. So I wanted to show you what the edges look like before we glue. See how the edges are sort of separated? And you can see a little gap. So what we're going to do is we're going to place this underneath a heavy book to dry flat for about an hour, and that's going to give us a perfect seamless edge ornament that's nice and flat with no lifting on the edges. So what I like to do is leave this for about an hour. I do like to check on it in about 5 minutes, just see if any glue has seeped out to the edges, because while it's still wet, it's very easy to just wipe it up with your finger or with a damp paper towel. So we'll repeat gluing the other 3 ornaments, and then we'll let them dry for an hour. We'll come back and we'll attach our little ribbon hangers. So our ornaments have had time to dry, and let's take a look at how they came out. I want to show you that edge. See if you can see that. See how it's really nice and tightly glued together. There's no gaps. That looks really, really good. So remember, if you see any little fuzzies on the edge, or if there's anything that you want to trim up, you can just trim that up using your craft scissors or some curved scissors or embroidery scissors. So to tie up the little ornament hanging ribbons, I'm just going to use some 3/8 inch craft ribbon. I've already cut some 12-inch pieces, and all I'm going to do is thread my little ribbon through here. I'm just going to tie a knot. You of course can tie, a much prettier bow or do something more complex. I thought this was a simple ornament design, so I wanted to keep the ribbon simple. So I'm just going to tie a little knot. Use some little scissors to trim the edges of the ribbon so they look neat. And that's pretty easy to do. Now this would be cute if you cut these from cardstock. You can put heat transfer vinyl on cardstock, so you could cut these from cardstock and then write on the back, and it could be a name tag for a gift. And there we have it. Our ornaments are complete. I hope you like this project. If you want to see all of the 20 holiday faux leather crafts I've created for my faux leather crafting event, I'll leave a link to a playlist for you. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.